Hey YouTube. So if you guys have been playing WoW for the last two expansions at least, then you'll have noticed a lot of the changes coming to the HUD layout and also the visual clarity that Blizzard has been implementing in the base game. It started with the introduction of the edit layout menu, which allowed for HUD customization, similar to like the LVUI add-on, if any of you currently use that, which allows you to just move around a lot of the elements, make it bigger, smaller, yada yada. And that came in Dragonflight. Then more recently, there was the introduction of the cooldown manager window, which just is an element that allows you to track your cooldowns at the center of your screen. It's what a lot of people these days use when they use like a cooldown manager for their own spec. And then in 11.1.7, it is intended for the new rotation assist that Blizzard has been designing, similar to Heckley if you've played with that add-on, which is basically, in Blizzard's version, it's going to be a suggesting what the next ability should be in your rotation, or they also have just a one-button rotation, so you can literally just put this on every button on your keyboard. You can just spam your keyboard and it will just do a rotation for you. Some key things to comment on this with though, it won't include offensive cooldowns. It will not help with any healing. It will not help with any tanking stuff. So no defensive, no utility, nothing like that. It is a pure DPS rotation assist. And it does have some problems. It is still on PTR, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure they'll make some changes and stuff before it does get released. But it is a bit inefficient at the moment, where it doesn't track a lot of your talent stuff. But if you were to play with no talents, then it would do a decent job. I've actually tested it myself on the PTR, and it was okay. But it's anticipation for some of these things that Ian Hazzikostas sat down with PC Gamer for an interview to discuss add-on development, their efficacy, and then Blizzard's in-house overhaul, and some of the major, catastrophic changes that Blizzard is looking to make to add-ons in general. Well, combat add-ons, I should say. So let's check out some of the key points that Ian actually spoke about. Now, there is a link to the full interview here if you want to check that out from PC Gamer. There is also a synopsis from Wowhead here for you as well. So before we get into this, I did just briefly want to mention that I myself am somebody who is playing the game at a high level with very minimal to basically no add-ons. So I am very intrigued to look at this from my perspective as somebody who's doing plus 18s, plus 19s in Mythic Plus, is a Hall of Fame Mythic Raider, and is playing a spec that has a lot of things to track. I am actually playing completely default. So for me, it's very interesting. I want to see what some of the things that they're going to add to the game that I will very much looking forward to, as well as how some of these things could be finicky, some things that I would like to see Blizzard add, and hopefully I can be a voice for people who don't really have any add-ons, you know, and are the default gamer. So let's get into some of these changes then. So proposed adjustments. Again, proposed adjustments. See how it ends up going. So incoming heals won't be trackable. No tracking group abilities or other player cooldowns. I think these are some major ones here, and this is what has gotten a lot of buzz. As well as this one here, no tracking specialized buffs or debuffs. These should be built into the default UI. So they have specified, right, we want you to track buffs with the default UI. I guess tracking, like as a tank, you can track, do my DPS have cooldowns available? Okay, then I will do this big pull. Which is not so much a thing anymore, as, you know, people just have a route before the dungeon, but it's by the by. That's how some people play, where they go based on healer or offensive cooldowns. Now, the tracking of group abilities or other player cooldowns is very interesting. This is how many healers actually like do their healing, is they are able to track people's defensives and then target people based on who may or may not have what. So I don't really know how that's going to work out for a lot of the healing side of things. Maybe they'll make healing a little bit more, like maybe they'll give you more time. People won't just get sort of 100 to 0'd. Maybe they'll adjust that in the combat design, because this is the key thing, right? Is by Blizzard bringing this stuff in-house, it will have an impact on their combat design. And I actually am very hopeful that they'll do sort of this, like, three-way development between class development, sort of in-house add-on development, and then also combat design. And the fact that all of that's going to be in-house, hopefully it should really gel together. That would be the hope. And so maybe we will be in situations where you don't have to react in 0.2 seconds, and you do have more time to account for this lack of tracking. So we'll see. The same is true for tank swaps. If they're building an encounter that requires taunting at 4 stacks, the game should be better about giving players that information. Stun and other crowd control diminishing returns should also be made more visible. Yes, absolutely. I was playing some Assassin Rogue the other day, and I tried to kidney shot a couple times in a dungeon, and the mobs were just DR'd, and there was no way to know, and then it's too late, and then the cast goes through, and it's like, oh, okay, now someone's dead. PvP add-ons might still tell you what classes you're facing, but won't tell you what cooldowns have been used. I know the PvP scene is very much in like a buzz right now. I think the PvP is kind of are happy about this on the whole. And this is going to put more skill expression into the player, right? It's going to allow the player to show what they are made of, what can they track visually, and then keep track of in their mind, whilst also trying to play and compete in PvP. In PvE, it's less apparent. You're not probably going to be tracking your group stuff as much in your head. So the PvP scene, like, that might actually get me into PvP. If I know that I'm on a sort of a more level playing field with people, and if the visual clarity is good. This is the key point, right? Like, Blizzard mentioned a couple things about visibility here, and that's something I think they desperately need to work on. A suggestion I would add is that they need to make it so that you can turn down everybody's spell effects, and you can focus purely on the boss plus group utility. So efflorescence, you should very clearly be able to see that. Things like Defile, DK Defile, maybe. But AMZ, more importantly, Priest Bubble, these things you should very clearly see. But then everything else should sort of be turned off if you want it, so that you can pay way more attention to boss visuals and visuals on the ground, have way less clutter, and then you can play fights without need for weak auras. You can play based on boss animations. This is something that happens in Final Fantasy XIV, and I think it's actually exceptional, is bosses have a whole list of ways that they do mechanics. There's a lot of, not randomness, but a lot of the boss is going to do this or that. And you have to be paying attention. Like, you know at this point in the fight, the boss is always going to be either doing this or that. You just have to be paying attention to which one it's going to be. But the visual clarity is very good. And so you can see, oh, okay, well, does the boss have his sword down on the ground? Well, then he's going to cleave the edge of the arena. Oh, does he have the sword up in the sky? Okay, well, then he's going to cleave, like, super close to him, so you need to move out. Stuff like that, where you can pay attention to the actual boss because the visual clarity is really solid, and you can turn off other people's effects. There's also some cool stuff where, like, for example, tank busters, instead of just, you know, because they mention here, tank swapping, there should be more clarity here. There's a reticle that they use, like an indicator, a targeting indicator in FF again, where, like, a tank, if it's a 2-player soak, it'll be like a circle around one of the tanks, but then there'll be 2 orbs rotating around, and then you as a tank can look and see, right, this coloration and the design of this animation tells me it's a tank soak. And then the fact that there's 2 orbs, 1, 2, there's 2 tanks, we need to do a duo soak. Things like that that help show you, hey, you need to come do this thing without needing to taunt now. You know, so stuff like that I think is really good and could be taken in and implemented by Blizzard. There's also voice lines. There can be like a text box above a boss, which can say, like, oh, that's it, I'm going to cast a spell on you now. And then you know, like, oh, okay, she's going to cast the spell. She's not going to do the physical thing. Stuff like that could be absolutely implemented, I think. Boss color, animations, all that kind of stuff I would like to see implemented, personally. You then have visual customization of nameplate style, and scale will still be allowed, but conditional logic to change the way they look because of a buff or debuff probably won't be. That one, I don't know too much about what that is really getting. Oh, I think that's getting at, like, so if you're dotting multiple mobs and you want to make sure in AoE that you have your dot on every mob, the nameplate will like change color when the mob has your dot active. I think that's a very common one that people will have. So maybe they're getting rid of... so that stuff will still be allowed, okay? But there's going to be some sort of conditional logic, so I guess some kind of like, you know, like restrictions to a degree. Auction house, quest helpers, gathering, roleplay add-ons shouldn't be affected. Perfect. You can still have your big boob slider add-ons in Goldshire Inn. That's perfect. But basically what they're saying is this is going to be combat add-ons specifically, which I think is good. I don't think they should remove any of the non-combat add-ons. I just think that, like, we're in this arms race, and Blizzard has even used that term, this arms race, where the add-on developers are trying to outsmart Blizzard, and then Blizzard are restricted in some of their development. They have to reduce the reaction speed or reaction time allowed to solve a mechanic massively, because they go, well, if we want to do this mechanic, you're going to have an add-on that's going to tell you whether to move left or right, so we need to make sure that this mechanic happens instantly, so that you have to react instantly, and it becomes very much just watch the add-on and then react quickly, and it's sort of solved. Think of like the Dance Macabre in the Castle Nathria in Shadowlands, or another example of it is... There's another one, but it's not coming to me right now. I'd forgotten it. Oh, well. So, these things, I think they should look at combat add-on stuff, definitely. So, Blizzard intends to improve the base UI, cooldown manager, edit mode, and the audio-visual clarity of important mechanics, while reducing the number of random swirls and required kicks in turn. So, for me, I think this will be an amazing change. Right now, you go into a lot of dungeons and stuff, and it's just a kick fiesta. Like, there's just casts everywhere. There's no silencing on mobs, so there's just this permanent need to kick. People still might not even be using an interrupt tracking add-on anyway, or if they do, they're not paying enough attention to it. And then you're in this situation where, like, mobs are just infinitely casting. I'd love for them to tone that down a little bit, allow for people to, oh, we accidentally, 4 of us kicked at once, but that's okay because there's not going to be another kick for a little while or whatever. Hopefully we can have some more fun in Mythic Plus and that kind of thing. I do feel like this is a really important one, right? Because the thing with add-ons compared to Blizzard, like one of the cons of this whole situation is that Blizzard is bringing this stuff in-house, but then they need to be hot on it. They need to be quick to react. Because the thing about add-on developers is that they're like normally very small teams, maybe even just individuals, and they react fairly quickly. Normally within a few days, maybe a week or two of a patch going live, their add-on is up and running. And Blizzard can't take months and months and months to do these things because there's a lot of red tape, as we know, in large corporations, right? Billy's got to speak to his boss, who's got to speak to their boss, who's got to speak to their boss. And it just takes a long time for that stuff to kind of be filtrated down. So, or filtered down. Titrated? Anyway, they need to move quick, because if they don't move quick, it's going to cause a lot of teething issues. I do like that they're doing these gradual changes, though. I think that's very fair. It gives the community time to adjust. I'm really all for it with this. I do have a few things I do want to comment on. So the pros and cons. So, yeah, Blizzard has been in an arms race for years now. Ian himself comments on how they want to move away from intricate design and instead massively reduce the amount of time available for you to position to solve said mechanics. This makes it a react quickly, look at the weak aura stand. Their hope is by limiting some of these add-ons and weak auras, they can open up the design space, which I think would be amazing, right? Let the designers just unleash what they've got. The triple threat of designing the combat design, add-on design, and classes around the combat specifically could result in a well-balanced design. You could have some really cool stuff where you have some really great fights and really great class design, which is going to complement these things. Hopefully less time waiting for bosses pre-pull, less do you have the weak aura set up, right? Look at Pantheon in Sepulchre, my guild, we got there. We got to Pantheon, we had an hour and a half left of raid that evening. We were ready to go. We get there, okay, people are using different weak aura sets. We've got to make sure everyone deletes, installs the correct one. Then we've got to have it all set up, make sure our kicks are implemented like correctly. And we were there for like an hour, and I think we got to pull the boss twice, and then we had to call it a night. And that was hot. That was 1/4 of our raid night, or 1/4 of our raid week was just standing for a weak aura. So Less reliance on that will be really good. Like I say, I am a default UI gamer, so I'm really looking forward to some of these things. I do think there are some cons, right? There are some cons by taking on this responsibility. They need to react quickly, as I mentioned. Yeah, I do think Blizzard has been quite slow at times. They're even mentioning here. It's another one of my cons. They've been quite slow at times to react to things or to actually give clarity to things. And I think this is the big one. It's just visual clarity is so important. If you're riding a Katamari ball on sticks, which is apparently what they're called, you run into one of these 3 nameplates, you wipe the raid, but there are 90 things on the screen. Good luck visually passing that. Yeah, they need to work on these things and design fights with that in mind. I do think some fights that I really liked, a boss like Sludge Fist, right, where you're chained to your allies and you need to do this 2-player dance where you need to be moving together in tandem and allowing, like, you need to do a spread, you need to do a move in, etc. You can't break the chain. Similar to another Sludge boss in Floodgate right now, where you are chained to an ally and you need to move and be aware of them and stuff. These are, like, good fight designs because they aren't just solved by a weak aura. And I personally am fed up with a lot of the weak aura stuff, of that just being how a lot of the stuff is designed around. I mean, look at this image. You know, I do think there will be some teething issues. I'm very much looking forward to it, though. And a couple last like points that I wanted to make, some things I would like to see Blizzard do additionally. So I'd like to see them adjust buff tracking. There's a lot of dead weight there. So a lot of the buffs, say, like, right now with default UI, in the top right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a lot of buffs that get tracked when you're in combat. And a lot of them are completely irrelevant, or things that are not affecting your moment-by-moment, second-by-second rotation. Right? If I'm playing Feral Druid, I want to be tracking my Tiger Fury uptime, my Blood Talon's presence, whether I have, I don't know, maybe Sudden Ambush, right? Like, these are the things I want to pay attention to. Or my tier set bonuses, right? I really don't want to pay attention to the fact that I've got a 100% reputation buff right now. It's like, it's not relevant. I should be able to toggle these things on and off. And I should be able to, like, remove combat buffs from when I'm in combat. Right? These things I think are really important and would help my tracking massively. And people like me. Blizzard has mentioned their poor visual clarity at times. I'd like to see more of an FF14 approach with the boss animations. Where boss animations actually matter. Where boss voice lines matter, the colors of things matter, arrows and directionals matter, tank busters, using orbs and indicator of number of people required to soak, etc. Like, I would really like to see these things be implemented, and the way I look at it, I know I make some Final Fantasy adjustments, but I think it's a really good thing to look at. Final Fantasy is like a waltz, right? It's like a coordinated dance with very little RNG or chaos. Right? There's learned positions. Sometimes the assignments sort of can be random, like either it's going to be all DPS and then all support roles, or it's going to be like one DPS with one support, right? And you have to like coordinate via that and assign via that. Yeah, so you have those kinds of assignments. But in World of Warcraft, I like to think of it as jazz. A lot of the fights are, we've got 20 to 30 players. People need to look at Muggsy right now, right? You explode a bomb, people need to soak. There's not assigned positions. There's not this coordinated, right, well, you take this quadrant, I'll take that quadrant. It's everyone just run and soak, and then we'll just hope that we get it. That's the WoW design. It's that jazz. And I'm not saying we should move away from that, but I think have a play with different visual designs and boss encounter designs. I think this is good stuff. I'm excited to see what they do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and thanks very much for watching. See you next time.